everyone. Today's video discussion is going to be on the matter of certain penalties that the IRS imposes. Now, there are a number of different penalties that the IRS imposes, but I'm only going to speak of those that I think are commonly imposed penalties. And those penalties are as follows. The failure to file penalty, the failure to pay penalty, the underpayment of estimated tax penalty, and the accuracy related penalty. Now I'm going to briefly touch on each of these different types of penalties, just so that you can have an idea as to why that penalty was imposed against you if you actually got hit with one of those penalties. Okay, so let's first discuss the failure to file penalty. And that penalty is imposed for exactly what it sounds like. Failing to file your tax return by the due date, or if you filed an extension by the extension due date. For individuals, the filing due date is April 15th. If you file an extension, the due date is October 15th. Now, of course, if the 15th falls on a holiday or a weekend, you have until that next business day. That would be the deadline filing date. For corporate filers, the due date is March 15th, and if you filed an extension, the date is September 15th. So now that you know the due dates, there's no excuse for you not filing by those dates, right? Right. Okay, so again, the failure to file penalty will be assessed against you if you fail to file your return and you have a tax liability that's due. Now, if you're due a refund and you do not file, that failure to file penalty does not apply. Again, the failure to file penalty applies if you have a tax balance due. And for more information on how they calculate that penalty, you can refer to the IRS's website, which is www.irs.gov. Or you can also Google failure to file penalty IRS, and there will be a number of links that show up. So that's the failure to file penalty. Now let's talk about the failure to pay penalty. And again, that penalty is what it sounds like. It's a penalty for failing to pay the tax liability due by the due date. Now let me explain something that seems to be confusing to some people. They figure that if they file an extension, they have an extension of time to pay any tax balance that's due. That's incorrect. No. An extension of time, filing an extension, which is a form 4868, is only an extension of time to file the paperwork, not to pay any balance that is due. So if you know that you're going to owe by the due date and you do not pay that amount, you will get hit with a failure to file and a failure to pay penalty if you have not filed or paid by the due date. Now, of course, if both of those penalties apply to you, the failure to file penalty will be reduced by the failure to pay penalty. And for more information regarding how that is calculated, again, you can refer to the IRS's website. Now let's talk about the underpayment of estimated taxes penalty. This penalty is typically assessed against self-employed individuals, Schedule C filers. Now, if you know that you're going to have a tax liability of $1,000 or more, the IRS requires you to make estimated tax payments. Estimated tax payments are due every quarter. April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th of the following year. Those are the due dates for estimated taxes. Now, not everyone will get hit with a penalty if they do not file or if they do not pay every quarter. The IRS has a certain way that they figure out who gets penalized and who doesn't. And of course, I do not have that information, so I cannot elaborate on how they figure that penalty. Just know that if you, as a self-employed individual, are going to have a tax liability of at least $1,000 or more, it might be wise, or I should say it would be wise, to make estimated tax payments, if for nothing else, to reduce your tax liability at tax filing time. So if you know that your income is going to be 30, 40, 50, 60 plus $1,000, you know that you're going to have a tax liability possibly. I'm not going to say that you know, but it depends on your deductions and everything else that you have going on with your tax return. But if you think that you're going to have a tax liability of $1,000 or more, it would be in your best interest to make estimated tax payments throughout the year. So, for more information on that, of course, you can refer to the IRS's website under estimated taxes, and you can find out how they calculate it and more details about it. So now let's talk about this accuracy-related penalty. Now, I would think that this penalty has been around for a while, has been on the books for a while, but it seems as though now the IRS is imposing that penalty more. Now, the accuracy-related penalty is imposed for several reasons. It can be imposed on a taxpayer if the IRS thinks that they underestimated their income and overinflated their deductions. And this is in regards to Schedule C filers. That penalty can also be imposed for individuals who do not report their foreign assets using the FBAR form, foreign bank account reports. And there are other reasons why you can be hit with an accuracy-related penalty. The accuracy-related penalty is 20% of the additional tax that will be due. So, in addition to other penalties and interest, you will have to pay 20% of whatever the additional tax amount is for the accuracy related penalty. Now, of course, in some cases, if you can substantiate that you had reasonable cause, then that accuracy related penalty will be reduced or eliminated altogether. But those are the penalties that I wanted to discuss because I don't think that a lot of taxpayers are aware of those penalties that can be imposed on them. And of course, if you get hit with a penalty, you can always abate it by filing a Form 843 penalty abatement, but you would need to have reasonable cause before the penalty is abated. Now, reasonable cause, the IRS defines that. But in general, reasonable cause would not be that you did not receive a notice, that you forgot about it, or anything like that. That's definitely not reasonable cause, so don't bother wasting your time sending in the abatement request, because I can tell you right now that no, it will not be approved. And typically, not always, if it's a first time issue, the IRS usually will grant or approve the abatement. But this is not the case all the time. So again, the penalty abatement request is done by using the Form 843. So now to recap the penalties that I discussed: the failure to file, the failure to pay, the underpayment of estimated tax, and the accuracy related penalties. Now, of course, as I mentioned previously, there are other penalties that the IRS imposes, but in my opinion, these are probably the most common ones. So for more information regarding either of those penalties, again, you can refer to the IRS's website, which is www.irs.gov, or you can just type in Google the specific penalty that you're looking for, and I'm sure a number of links will come up regarding it. So this concludes my discussion on certain IRS penalties. And before I go, I would like to mention that I do have a tax-related website, which is www.audiotaxhelp.com. That's www.audiotaxhelp.com. On my site, you will find general information regarding various tax matters. And I also have a tax video series that I recorded that covers various tax matters as well. And that information will flash across the top of the screen shortly as to where you can find those videos. Well, I do thank you for your time, and I hope that the information that I have provided will be beneficial to you. And as always, my goal is to help you live a less taxing life. Thank you.